Welcome to the Promis Recovery Centre. I'm Robert Lefevre. We treat any form of addiction, but in particular the big three: alcoholism, drug addiction, eating disorders. And what we hope is that you will learn something about what can really be done about those things. What makes an addict or not? How do we differentiate between people who are addicts and people who are not addicts? In fact, there's a third group, there's idiots. So we've got three groups of people. First of all, the normals, then the idiots, and then the addicts. Now let's look at just at alcohol, because it's an easy one to deal with. The normal is someone like my wife. My wife can do the most extraordinary thing. She can leave half a glass full of wine. And I will say, how did you do that? And she will say, because I didn't want it. I said, no, you didn't hear the question. I said, how did you do that? Because I can't do that. If I leave half a glass of wine, it sings to me. You know, and I have to go back, you know, and go back and pick it up and drink it to put it out of its misery. I don't know how to have half of something. You know, they sell cigarettes, or rather they sell chocolates by the box, so you eat them by the box. You don't just have one. I mean, it's a ludicrous concept. But my wife is perfectly capable of eating one chocolate or having half a glass full of wine. She's a normie. And I find that very distressing and very disturbing, because I'd like to be a normie too. But I'm not. I wasn't born with that. Then the second group are the idiots. They're usually medical students. They do something because they just want to let off steam. If we went up to London tonight and swept the streets for the people who were drunk, a fair number would be medical students. That's because that's what they do as medical students. It's part of their culture. They go out and get drunk. Now, in my medical student days, we used to go to the hospital in the morning. We did do some work, you'll be glad to know. Then in the afternoon we'd play rugby, and then in the evening we'd go to the King and Queen and get slaughtered. And then during the night we'd go to the nurse's home and get the other. But this doesn't mean to say that we were workaholics, exercise addicts, alcoholics, and sex and love addicts. It just means we were medical students. We're just idiots. You know, because we had no better philosophy, no better culture to really think about in really creating our lives. I suppose it's something to do with, you know, medical student training being particularly emotionally demanding. You know, cutting up corpses, as we used to do in those days, and then torturing frogs in physiology and all the rest of it. You know, you do need to let your hair down sometimes. Well, we used to let it down all the time. But I don't think that made us addicts of any kind. It just made us idiots. I don't think you can become an addict. I think you have to be born it. And so the third category of those of us who are addicts, the question that we need to look at is not what do you do or when do you do it or how much do you do, but why. The answer to the why question is always the same. It's to change the way we feel. But why would you want to change the way you feel? You've got everything you could possibly need. Yes, but I still feel empty. But okay, we'll have this. Well, I want two. Well, all right, we'll have two. Well, I want the other one. Okay, we'll have the other. No, I want the one that Lucy's got. Have the one that's Lucy. You see, nothing satisfies. That's an addict. The why question is the important one. We're always trying to change the way we feel. Regardless of what we've got, regardless of how much we're loved, regardless of how well we've been looked after by other people, regardless of our childhood. You can't make an addict by giving them too little or giving them too much. You have to be born as an addict. And the questions that we look at, the 12 characteristics of addiction, first of all, we tend to use something on our own. We tend to like to eat or drink or whatever just by ourselves. Secondly, we're always preoccupied on it. You know, I'll give up sometime, but not today, but what I'll have today is, you know, we're always trying to control. Thirdly, we use as a medicine. We want to use various substances and processes as a tranquilizer or antidepressant or you know, painkiller or whatever. We're always trying to change the way we feel as if it was a medicine. Fourth, we want to use primarily for mood-altering effect. We want to use something to change the way we feel. My wife Meg, for example, as I said, will drink alcohol for the taste. Well, you don't drink alcohol for the taste. That's ridiculous. You drink alcohol for the, yay, man. That's why you drink. You don't drink for the taste. That's silly. You know, I would go round, you know, drinking up and eating up other people's leftovers. And I'm a doctor, for heaven's sake. You know, it'd be humiliating behaviour. But I would do that in the course of my addiction. Fifth, protection of supply. We protect the time, the energy, the money. Here's the school fees, the rent, the children's holiday money, the clothing money. All that is negotiable. But this is the alcohol money, and that's ring-fenced. You don't touch that. And you don't touch the time that I would go gambling. That's my gambling time. And so on. We protect the time, the energy, the money. Sixth, the tendency to use more than planned. The first one triggers the need for the next, the next, the next. So if you want to find out if you have an alcohol problem, for example, have 2 drinks a day at lunchtime every day for a week and nothing else whatever. And you find that you can't do it. You come back and say, well, there was this extraordinary opportunity, the business opportunity. There we were talking about it, and you know, we had to yeah, but where were you discussing? Well, in the pub, of course. You know, well, it was the baby's christening, and you have to wet the baby's head. It was the Queen's birthday. It was, you know, they'll find some reason for breaking that, because what they can't do is to stimulate the more button and then keep it in control. You can go completely dry. You can do that. You can change from spirits to wine or something like that. You can do that. But what they can't do is to press the more button and then stop. So you've got to have the 2 drinks at lunchtime every day for a week. So the tendency to use more is the thing that we really have to look at. Number 7 is having a higher capacity than other people. I remember my son Robin said to me once that he had had 16 pints and 8 shorts and still wasn't drunk, and that proved he wasn't an alcoholic. I said, on the contrary, it proves you're an Olympic athlete as far as alcohol is concerned. You're in such good training. So the higher capacity is actually a point against, not a point in favour. Number 8, the tendency to continue despite damage. You've lost your car, you've lost your job, you've lost your wife. What do? You go back to the pub. Because you don't associate the pub as the place that's caused the damage. That's the one place that you are understood. That's the one place where you feel okay. But in fact, you continue despite all the evidence, despite all the damage. Number 9, the tendency to cross-addict. You put down the alcohol, you pick up the nicotine. You put down the nicotine, you pick up the sugar. You put down the sugar, you pick up the gambling. You go from one to the other. Number 10, the tendency to have dependence for a particular behaviour. So it's state-dependent learning. The snooker player who's alcoholic can't hold the cue until he's had the alcohol. He's dependent upon it, because otherwise his hand is shaking. Get the alcohol, then he's clear, then he can pot. Next one, the tendency to go anywhere to find the substance. You won't get out of bed, but if somebody says some good quality skunk 20 miles away, you'll be shooting out of bed. You'll find it. If you want to find out where the pubs are open on a bank holiday, the alcoholic will tell you. He knows. She knows. And finally, the tendency to continue despite the serious repeated concern of other people. We go on and on and on, regardless of what other people tell us. If they're worried about us, that's their problem. It's not going to change our behaviour.